Good evening and welcome back to Sports Talk ATL. I am Chase Earl, joined by Alex. Lord, there's not going to be a ton to talk about over this Brave season. There are a few developments. Every time Hurston Waldrop makes a start, I'm sure we'll talk about it. If any of those relievers we've talked about in the past, I'm sure we'll talk about it, but it's going to be few and far between. But we did get a juicy nugget from Dan Hayes of The Athletic, who reported the Braves are one of two teams, along with the New York Mets, that pushed very hard for all-star outfielder Byron Buxton. Now, it is funny to me that the Braves ended up buying more than the selling, and now they're not only involved, like even the rumors that come out as they were into what would have been a blockbuster trade. There's no two ways around it. Buxton's a mid-career year. He's got 3 more years of team control, and he's only getting paid $15 million per season. So I know there's injury concerns surrounding Buxton, but when you're getting paid $15 million a year, which is about what we're paying Jerks and Profar, I think you can deal with some of those injury concerns. Buxton was not going to waive his trade clause for anything, which I think is
I don't get it.
Very interesting, because if you saw what the Minnesota Twins did, I think they sold 10 players. So there's no one on that roster. I mean, it is barren of talent, and they have basically no path towards competing in the near future. Obviously, there's going to be some young players that come up, but they're so far away from competing. Really, even going to 2028, Buxton's last season on his contract, probably not going to compete. So it'll be interesting to see if these conversations come back up to light as he gets maybe a little frustrated with how bad that team's going to be.
Yeah, I don't really get it, other than maybe the family aspect, and I don't know if he has a family, but that's the only thing. I mean, because
I hope he has a family.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not trying to dump on the city or anything like the team or anything like that, but Atlanta and New York, the Mets were the other team who were interested. I don't know if you said that. I mean, Atlanta and New York are pretty great. And then you've got the Mets, who are clearly going, we all hate them here, but like, we can call a spade a spade. They're going to be competing. We're going to be competing. It's not like you're like, no, I'm going to stay with the Dodgers. You have no choice but to pay. I'm going to stay with the Yankees. I'm going to stay with the Red Sox. I'm going to stay with, maybe the Cardinals, like a team where they've got some history, they've got lore. They've got reasons where you could understand. There is no reason to stay in Minnesota. I really do not understand it. And I'm not trying to crap on Twins fans either. They've got a good fan base and everything like that, but it's just like, dude, you're 31. How many more good seasons do you have? How many seasons do you think you're going to get where you're actually going to have a legitimate shot at winning a World Series? None right now. Yeah. I mean, it's very confusing.
Well, Buxton's also a Georgia native. So, and
he's been so outspoken. I've never seen somebody more outspoken about, like, I am not waiving my no trade clause, like literally for anyone.
Well, I think, there's certain guys that are just extremely loyal guys. Like, they're going to say something and they're going to stick to it. Now, we have seen this in the past where, a year passes and you're like, dude, well, yeah, I mean, yeah,
James the perfect example.
we lose 110 games next year. Like, I don't know if he's going to be sitting there at the trade deadline like, wow, I'm really excited to do this for 2 more seasons. Like, I do think there's the possibility that this door is opened. It's not like he's in a rush to move his family, and I'm sure that played a big part of that. He obviously likes living in Minnesota. I think his family probably likes Minnesota, and he likes the organization, and the organization likes him. That's something that he was one of the guys they weren't trying to move. Despite selling off everybody, they didn't want to move Byron Buxton because they felt like he was the clubhouse. And when you talk about things that this team's kind of missing, you kind of want a guy like Buxton fills, outside of the injury concerns, about everything you want in an outfielder. I mean, he's fantastic defensively. He's good on the base pass. He's got power. He can fill in at all 3 outfield spots, and there's concerns at all of them. I mean, you don't know if Michael Harris, if this is legit. We hope it's legit, this second half surge, but maybe he could be your center fielder. Right fielder with Ronald Acuna. Does he move to a DH? He can play right field. And then left field, you have Jerks and Profar, who you don't really know what Jerks and Profar is. So the fact that he can do all of it, I do think it's very intriguing that the Atlanta Braves at least are acknowledging with this report that, hey, we got a problem in the outfield. Like, we need a legit star in that thing, like a legit starting caliber guy that can probably benefit, playing all 3 positions, because all of them have their own respective concerns.
Easing concerns, as I would say, not interesting. Like, thank God. Like, surprising, I would even say. I mean, I think there was people just spitballing speculation completely off the wall. It had no basis. We're just, being fans. It was like, would Mike be involved in the trade? I would think obviously not. Jurickson Profar, I would think obviously not. I mean, you would have to you'd be trading so low on Mike Harris. I really find that hard to believe. But like even with Profar, you'd have to that's dead weight right there. They don't want that. So just sifting through all the stuff like you just said, I think that it is clear and obvious, whether it's Buxton or somebody else, that there will be a fourth outfielder, not a fourth outfielder like Jared Kelenic or Brian Dela Cruz, who are really like AAA guys, or anybody that we have seen in the Braves outfield this year, other than the three starters. I'm talking about a third starter who will be our fourth outfielder.
Yeah, to me, I think right now with the way Jurickson Profar has played, and given all the circumstances, the evidence that we have, 10 years of Jurickson Profar and the one-off year that he had where he happened to use steroids, like, to me, no one's going to take that contract. He's going to be on the roster next year unless you just cut him like dead weight. And while I would like to see that happen just because I'm a spiteful fan and I don't like him, it's very unlikely to happen. He is your fourth outfielder. Like, you're looking for a guy.
You're looking for the third outfielder.
Yeah, you're looking for the third starter. Like, I think Jurickson Profar coming off the bench as a utility piece is pretty valuable. He's not worth $14 million in that role, but hey,
most expensive utility player
at this point, it's a sunk cost. You gotta use him for whatever he can bring to the table, and he's a guy who can play several different positions. So I think he's really who your fourth outfielder, and you're trying to find a starting caliber outfield that can be your third guy, whether that's Byron Buxton. Maybe you look at some platoon options. That's another option. But it is encouraging to me that they were trying to swing a move like this. Hopefully these conversations come back up again in the offseason, maybe next year's trade deadline. But I don't imagine they're just going to die, because he's going to be a guy that's talked about at every single trade deadline because of how bad the Twins are, a team that's rolling in debt, that needs to get money off the books, and they have a terrible baseball team. And guess what? The fans aren't going to be coming to see him very often. So I imagine he will be at the forefront of trade conversations, and hopefully the Braves pick these back up when the opportunity presents itself. We got some more Braves talk coming up after the break. All signs point to Alex Anthopoulos being a busy man this offseason, including the one that we just talked about. I think the fact that they were looking, despite having one of the worst records in baseball, to add an all-star outfielder at the trade deadline is very, very telling of the kind of activity that you can expect going into the offseason. There are a lot of holes to fill, but Alex, if I were to ask you the number one hole, where are you starting when you're like, we got to fix the 2025 Atlanta Braves going into 2026? Where are you starting?
The outfield, just right there. And Anthopoulos kind of stuck to his word, I guess. Not stuck to his word, but he was telling the truth where the offseason did start at that trade deadline. The Byron Buxton move, had it come to fruition, would have been a clear, offseason move that was just happening at the trade deadline. I think, I am completely changing my tone, and I agree with you that we're not looking for the fourth outfielder. We're looking for a starter out in the outfielder, and Profar will be your fourth outfielder. So I would say that number one, because one, I think it's the easiest thing to fill in terms of what you put into it resources wise and what you're going to get out of it, production wise. I mean, that's got to be your focal point.
Yeah. I mean, you think about the black hole that's been left field. Literally nobody outside of like Eddie Rosario, who is probably worth like half WAR. I mean, there's just been nobody over the last 3 years since the 2021 World Series that's produced at an even average rate at a position where you should be able to easily find offense.
Easily. It's so crazy how Anthopoulos can do everything from trade Vaughn Grissom for a Cy Young, but we can't find somebody in left field to hit 15 home runs and play average defense. I
mean, literally, yeah. I mean, there are so many guys out there that can hit 20-plus homers and play left field and play even below average, but at least there's something in the play. To me, I still think it starts with the rotation. I just think the injuries to Holmes, the injuries to Ronaldo Lopez and AJ Smith-Shawver, none of those guys I think you can have into consideration for the rotation next season. If one of them ends up being super healthy and feeling a lot better than they do today, it would have to be a complete 180. Maybe that changes, but I think when you're thinking about the mindset going into the offseason, you have two holes to fill completely. And I don't want to see Hurston Waldrop as the potential. He's your sixth guy. Bryce Elder, he's your 15th guy. Joey Wentz, he's your eighth guy. Like those are fine as backup options because injuries are going to happen. But you have to fill those two guys with guys that can give you MLB level production and have experience. One of them, I think, has to be a legitimate horse because even the guys that you're talking about that are healthy, the Chris Sales, injury history longer than anything you've ever seen. Spencer Schwellenbach, fractured elbow. Spencer Strider. We don't even quite know what Spencer Strider is going to be next season. We're hopeful, but we always like to say on this show, hope is not a strategy. And too often the Braves have been relying on hope to fix these things. We hope Grant Holmes can be a starter. We hope Ronaldo Lopez can bounce back from fatigue. We hope Ian Anderson can bounce back from just being abysmal. We hope AJ Smith-Shawver can put it all together. Like, all of these hopes didn't pan out. For every hope that does work out, your Chris Sale when he wins the Cy Young, there's 10 that don't. Like, if you're going to go the hope strategy, you better have 20 options, because a lot of them are not going to figure out. They need to get guys that are proven in this rotation and fix that. And that's something Alex Anthopoulos has not been willing to do. I mean, even when you think about the successes in the rotation, you're talking about Ronaldo Lopez, who was a reliever, Chris Sale, who nobody wanted because of his injury history. And those things worked out for a season, but then the next season, they don't work out. He's never gone big on a free agent starting pitcher. Never. Charlie Morton and Cole Hamels are like your biggest deals. And he's never made a trade for a big starting pitcher outside of Chris Sale, who nobody wanted. He's got to get involved in the fire, and that's a tough thing for him to accept, but I don't think he can avoid it any longer.
The only reason I think outfielder takes precedent over the rotation is because you look at the rotation and the bullpen this year, and you would think, we suck. They have, they are like half the problem compared to the lineup. And hopefully, Austin Riley bounces back. Hopefully Ozzie and Mike and yada, yada. But like, the problem we're losing games, it might be sticking your mind more because the bullpen, it's like easier to, that sticks in your mind because it's, you blow a game and, it tastes like, lemons. It's just horrible. But like, the reason why we're losing games is the offense. And that's why I think the outfield. But I do think it's a close second. And I wouldn't even say the rotation as a whole. Like, you've got your three horses, you think, and this could change the conversation dramatically depending on Schwellenbach's elbow. We don't know. But I think, specifically the rotation, the fifth guy, it doesn't really matter. Go get somebody who is not going to be hurt, who can give you, a 10%, at least a 10% below average, league average ERA. And like, as long as he doesn't get hurt, you'll be all right with that guy making a lot of strikes. The fourth guy is completely different in my opinion. The fourth guy has to be a guy, like you said, you are comfortable with him making a postseason start. You are not only comfortable, but like, you're like, okay, we have a real chance to win a baseball game in October with this guy on the mound. Because let's call a spade a spade. Chris Sale, Schwellenbach, or Strider, whatever one of those three, maybe more, is not going to be in the postseason roster 2026. I hope that's not true, but like, history tells us, whether it's Max Fried, Charlie Morton, Sale, Schwellenbach, Strider, it's just who we are. I don't know what it is. It's the water in Atlanta, the Cobb County. I don't know what it is. These guys are not making it to October. One of them is not at least. So you have to have at least 4 guys that you are comfortable with making. And guess what? If they're all healthy, you've got 4 guys who can make a start. Like, I mean, and it's past time. It's past time.
Yeah, I mean, a name, speaking to the kind of pitcher that I'm talking about and you're talking about for that fourth guy, and obviously hindsight's 2020, but it's a guy that we heard linked.
I wonder if
Nathan Eovaldi.
I was just going to say exactly.
Those are the kind of pitchers that you're looking for. Not a guy that's going to be Max Fried, that's going to make $30 million over 8 years, but a guy that's going to make $25-30 million over 3 years, which should be well in the comfortable zone for Alex Anthopoulos.
Well, especially when your sales making chump change. Strider's not even making a lot, and Schwellenbach's on a minimum wage.
I mean, you look at the totality of what you're spending on your starting rotation. It's nothing. It's literally one Max Fried. Like, that's what you're spending on all your 5 guys. And in a way, you're getting that much value. But come on, we got to put more resources here. It's been too long. And Alex Anthopoulos, it's his unwillingness to do that because it's hard to find value. But guess what? There's a reason why it's hard. And guess what? You end up with too many of them. You know what? Go great at the trade deadline. You can sell them and replenish your farm system, just like the Brewers did with Nestor Cortez. You can trade your back end guy or something like that. I know it's rare for buying teams to sell, but we're a selling team that bought. So it's not that crazy of an idea to do. Load up on your pitching staff. And I think the same thing with the bullpen. It's going to have to be reconstructed. You're going to have to get a closer. You're going to have to get a high leverage arm. Hopefully Lopez or Holmes and Jimenez can give you something. But again, I think you have to, operate under the assumption that they're not going to give you elite production. Maybe one of those guys turns out and is a good setup man but you got to operate under the assumption. I still think that I don't know if that's last. All of these are so big. Like all of these are like things you can't
1A,
skip
1B, 1C.
It's like you can't skip over because then I go to the middle infield and I'm like, dude, you got to replace Ozzie Albies or Nick Allen. I'm not saying you got to do both, but I think you have to replace one of them. I know Albies has played a little better, but that means Nick Allen, you got to find a shortstop. And that's not cheap. That's extremely expensive, actually. So a lot of holes.
I mean, if I had to rank them, I would still say outfield, fourth starter, or your third, a top. I know it's the back end of the rotation, but not really. And he's not a middle of the rotation guy. Like you'd want Sales, Strider, Schwellenbach, or whoever this guy is, doesn't matter, on the mound in October. So that would be number 2 in my mind. And then a closer. And then you could fill in the rest. Maybe that middle infield spot, maybe then a setup guy, and maybe then the 5th starter. Maybe that's how I would rank it. But even then, I mean, yeah. I mean, this is a problem that you're going to have to throw money on. There's just no way you can get around doing the Jared Kelenic, every single minor league arm that we had in our bullpen sucked this year. There wasn't a single one that emerged as a reliable arm out of our bullpen this year. Every single one sucked. I don't know how we could go back to that well.
No, you can't. You can't. And some of these things are going to have to be patchwork fixes because you're not going to have enough.
That's what I'm saying. Like the middle infield, honestly, is not last on my list, but like you can make up for the lack of offense, hopefully, with that outfielder. And maybe Profar can play second base if you get in and Ozzie is that bad. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I just don't know. I mean, there is a lot of – I mean, this is $100 million problem that we've got.
Well, unless you're willing to move off one of Drake Baldwin or Sean Murphy, because that could fill one of your holes. And that's why I always go back to this, because it's not about what I want to do. We didn't even talk
about the DH, because if you get run on one of them guys, then you've got a DH problem if you don't want Ronald Acuna to be the DH.
Yeah. I mean, that like right field and left field with Ronald Acuna kind of having this injury history are both kind of concerns, which is why Byron Buxton made so much sense, because he could fill in for Michael Harris if Jerks and Profar is hot and Ronald Acuna is healthy and Michael Harris is struggling. He can play left field. He can play right field. Hell, he can DH. He can do quite literally it all. But it's going to be hard to patchwork all these issues if they're not willing to give up one of those catchers. That's just the way that I look at it from a financial perspective.
You see the stadium on Monday night?
I did. I watched,
empty.
I watched the first 5. Once they hit the 3-run homer, I said, I'm good.
Granted, school's back. It's raining. We suck. Not helping revenue. No.
Well, you know what would? Maybe build a contender. Maybe spend some more money. Just trust me, people will show up if this team is any good. We're going to switch gears coming up after the break. We got a lot of Falcons talk to discuss, starting off with a surprising rookie earning first-team reps.